Okay. Special asked that we dedicate today the shir for his grandmother, for his Islamotul Bas Chayela. Okay. Um, Baruch atonu Eloheinu melech haolam shehakel midbarim.
Amen.
Okay, Shevaliyas and Neshama.
Amen.
The Rebbe, one of the first shluchim that he sent was to Argentina. Why Argentina? Well, what's so special about Argentina? Ah, that's very good. Like the Ganav Gizak, why is he a bank robber? Because that's where the money is. So why is Lubavitch Rebbe send one of his first and best shluchim to Buenos Aires?
What year was it?
He sent to Buenos Aires, I don't know, when they sent Beryl Baumgarten.
Beryl Baumgarten. He sent him
Yeah. 66, 1966. So this was.
He was my mishpia. He met him one day. He didn't show up. I'm wondering where's Beryl Baumgarten. Now he's in Argentina.
Yes. So Rabbi Baumgarten, we were talking about him last night, about his son, Penny. There was a lot of Jews that came there. Hundreds of thousands of Jews left Russia. Millions. Oh, there's 2 million Jews went in the pogroms of the 1880s. And not all the Jews ended up in Ellis Island. And some Jews were refused at the Ellis Island. Then they went on and they went to Buenos Aires. There were towns, Jewish towns. They had Jewish names. The cities that today they're desolate with big cemeteries and gorgeous big shuls. There was I'm talking about Mosesville in a second. Thank you. What's your name? Thank you.
Well, I grew up in
one of these.
Yeah,
they ever wanted
agricultural family?
Huh?
They were agricultural.
Agricultural, and there was also a lot of cowboys. They were called gachos. Huh?
Rabbi Kirsch.
And
Rabbi Kirsch.
Yeah, the family. Give me a minute. I'll tell you everything. The Rabbi, the Beryl Baumgarten, the Rebbe sent him as a shliach there. The story, and I want to start off the show with the story because it's something which, even though it's a famous story, it's something Mavil Asarayan, and I think there's even a recording of it, the audio of it. Rabbi Baumgarten was going from town to town where there were Jews. So once all from Eden had Mesidus Nefesh to keep Shabbos, and now the grandchildren all getting lost. And he was going from town to town, and there was one place he needed to go over a river, and the boat was wild. He wanted to. It was Yutas Kislev, and he wanted to sit. So you had an option to put your car on the boat, but he decided to sit in the car also. He was sitting in the car.
There were a few Yidden that he tried to be Makariv. They say, please leave here, go away from here.
Oh.
So he went into the car.
You have some. I was with my children, and we took a ride we were coming back from Vermont, and we took a shortcut, and the shortcut was to drive over a river. No, you can't drive with a car over a river. So there's a ferry. You put your car, and we had a choice if we want to sit in the car, if we want to go out. Everyone sits in the car, they're watching the television. We went out of the car, and then we went up to the deck, and I told them the story.
Yeah.
So, huh?
His car fell over.
His car fell over, and he
hit a banana boat. They hit a banana boat.
You should tell the story.
No.
Oh, okay. And the car fell in, and he was thinking himself like Rebbe. He was like, he was thinking that this is the end of his life.
He didn't know how to swim. He was in the boat at the time.
Huh?
He was in the car at the time.
Yeah, he was in the car, and the car fell in.
And the door didn't open.
Oh, he couldn't open the door. And he thought it was the end of his life. At that time, it was Fabrengen Yutis Kislev. in New York, and the Rebbe turned to his brother, and yeah, and he told him Mendel, and he said he should say L'chaim for his brother. No, no, I'm sorry, I ruined the story already. The Rebbe, I think, asked, "Is Bettel here?" And when they said not, so the Rebbe turned to Mendel, and he said he should say L'chaim for his brother. And miraculously, he was able to open the door, and he was able to swim up, even though he was not a swimmer. And they took him out of the water, and it was like there was Pella the Ois. So anyway, this is my opening story for the Shir about Argentina. The Rebbe sent his one of his best men. He sent him first to Argentina. Why? Because there was a lot of Yidden there. That's where. So Yidden came to Argentina. So I want to start off. What happened was, in Lubavitch, it became the style to give out a something special by the Chasna. So I made a true. My mechutin made a true. My mechutin is a rov in Buenos Aires of the Chabad community, and yeah, it's funny. Right before before I came here 18 years ago, I got a call from Buenos Aires asking me if I would take that position, and I said no, it doesn't feel right. It's not for me. He called me a few times. By Grumblat, I said no, it doesn't sound like it's my birurim.
You know that
But
years later,
yeah, so that my mechutin ended up taking that position, well, it made sense. My mechutin, his wife, is really from is several generations. They're living in Buenos Aires. They had a grandfather. His name was Reb Aaron Goldman. Reb Aaron Goldman was born in Podolia in Russia in the year Tov Reish Yud Dalet, 1854. And as a young man, together with 120 families, they came to Ellis Island. They were refused entry for some reason. The whole group. And then they sailed to Buenos Aires. When they got there, they got a piece of land a few miles away from Buenos Aires as a gift from the government to cultivate the land. They the Rabbi Goldman went to begin with to be the Rav, Rabbi Aaron Goldman. He went Mechatchila. He called. They asked him, Rabbi, what should we name the village? He said, just like the Eden went out of Mitzrayim, it was Moshe Rabbeinu took them out of Mitzrayim. So in order for the Jews to always remember, he called it Mosesville. Mosesville. It's one word, Mosesville, and today is all that's left is the shul, the Beis HaChaim, and but the Jews don't live anymore in these little villages. But their whole thing was to work on the land, and it was an entire Jewish village. He was a Yid, which was a Moedik Talmid Chochem, and he wrote Shalos Tshuvos to many of the Goinim in Europe at that time. He's here. There's a story of a get, a person that left his wife in Kovna, and she was an aguna for many years, and they wrote to Rabbonim all over the world, and he found this guy was somewhere far from the place, working in a factory, and he wrote the get, and there was a shaila in the name. A person that put in a lot of koiches to establish Yiddishkeit in the right way, and the I just there's his personality and one of the other personality I drove in Buenos Aires, who is his father was a Talmud Chasam Sofer. It's a fascinating story. His father was a Talmud Chasam Sofer, and there was once walking with his Rebbe on Shabbos, and he saw a rich man. He thought he was Jewish, and he was smoking on Shabbos. So he was such a zealot, he couldn't hold it back, and he gave the guy a slap on the face. It turns out it was the Count of Pressburg. It was Ochenvei. So for the rest of Shabbos, he hid in Chassam Sofer's house, and after Shabbos, Chassam Sofer told him to move to Yerushalayim. He started the Kollel Shemrei Achoimus.
He started,
yeah, and his son moved also to Buenos Aires. And funny because I wanted to learn with you a tshuva today from Rabbi Goldman. And tshuva earlier, there's a tshuva from this guy from Rabbi Yosef Yeshua Deitch. He was in Buenos Aires. They considered Rabbi Goldman the first chief rabbi, Ashkenaz chief rabbi. He was also a Sephardi chief rabbi, by the way, that came from Aleppo, also who worked together, the Sephardi and Ashkenazi chief rabbi. He wrote him. So it's interesting. A letter he writes to him about the sugar, that they have sugar without a hechsher, if he should use it, should he not use it. And here there's a few chuvas that he writes to Rav Sonnenfeld, answers questions about how to be Mekarev Yidden. Should he give Aliyah a person who's not Shem Shabbos and he's coming to shul and for his father's yard side? These two personalities, Sai Rabbi Goldman and Sai Rabbi Deitch, all their grandchildren Kamata from Yidden and all the Bavitch Chassidim. That's what happens when you have Mesiris Nefesh and you. Oh, I don't think they knew who Chabad is. But their children, stayed religious, and then they, when the Rebbe sent to Shluchim, then they opened up a Chabad yeshiva, and they were wanted to be from Yidden, so they sent their kids to these yeshivas, and they ended up being Chabad Chassidim. So it was. I'm scrolling through his chuvas, and there was three chuvas, one after the other, really cute. One about the sugar, and the end, and second and third. So there was a very popular newspaper called the Yiddish Zeitung. The Yiddish Zeitung. If you have 200,000 Jews, and all speak Yiddish, they speak very schwach Spanish. They all speak Yiddish, so they have a newspaper. So there was a guy. His name was Hillel. This guy is a very talented writer. This guy, Rabbi Goldman. And he wrote two chuvas in the newspaper. One about how to make the matzah something cheaper. So the minig is that that the Yidden go to the mill, and you have to thoroughly clean the mill. Why is the minig to thoroughly clean the mill? Because chametz. How's a chametz? Because the wheat is washy. So because the wheat is washed, it's possible that the wheat was with the water long enough until it became chametz, and then the rechaim hits it. So the rechaim, there could be little pieces of chita left from the previous run. So you're going to come to the mill with your beautiful chitim, your bags and bags of chitim that are clean. You never washed it with water, and you make sure, and your mashgichim are there. But the minig Yisrael was that when you go to the mill, that you clean it thoroughly. Now, what happens when you clean it thoroughly? That for one day or a half a day, the mill is not working. Who is picking up the cost for that? Not the owner of the mill, especially if he's a goy, he's not picking it up, and if he's a Jew, he's also not picking up the cost. So who is picking up the cost? The people who are baking matzahs. The people are baking matzahs. So there's the price of the mashgiach and the price of the workers who are cleaning up the rechaim, and the price for the mill that for one day the mill is out of commission. So there's a writer. His name is Hillel. He said there's a chiddush in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch that in the end of Siman Taf Nun Gimel, that if this minig only applies within Shloshim Yom Kodem Achag. But if you're gonna bring your chitim to the mill before that, this minig doesn't apply. Maybe there's a little bit of chametz. Maybe there's a little bit of chametz stuck in the rechaim. It's gonna be, because you're gonna do so much. It's gonna be bottled, and because you're gonna bake the matzah before Pesach, it's gonna be thoroughly bottled. But within 30 days, you have to keep the minig. So this guy said there's a lot of poor people.
Even though then it would have been bottled also.
Right, but it's in the minig. It's the minig, right? So this guy wrote an article that we can make the matzahs in Argentina cheaper if we won't have this ridiculous thing that we have to clean up the rechaim. So and he wrote a beautiful article, guy, and this guy's talent of writing is unbelievable. But first of all, he has a lot of lumdus. The main thing in the tshuva, he says what happens is when there's a heksher, he says, so the rabbi sends a mashgiach. The first thing the mashgiach makes sure is that when these chitim are being processed, that there's no water. He says a lot of the factories that have rechaim, they wash the chitim before, even if the chitim are already washed before, they wash the chitim a second time because they want that the mill should go good. So if there's no mashgiach, he says, where does the hashgacha start? It starts from the fact that for 12 hours no one's doing any work. So the mashgiach closes the pipe and he cleans up. He said, if you're not gonna keep the minig, you're also gonna end up probably not having So you're not, oh, so we don't need a mashgiach. We just have to tell the factory to turn off the water. Do you think the guy is going to turn off the water? You're going to eat matzahs that are really chametz for Pesach.
Wow.
But there's also lumdus in the tshuva, and and then he says, and then he says, but he has such a pen. He writes, "Eich yerev lechochem lechel matzas mudoris ubarburi mefutam imolek ora alishtes yain karmel hagvir vagvira v'honi am ulul yosher befinas beise benefesh mora v'lotza sedei chavasi yamalat bitnoi besir kitnius babite bekosi dina ponav miboishes v'tzoyek bekel kein osa hillel v'hillel lo yosa kein." There's the next following tshuva is a very interesting tshuva, which is a little bit relevant to us. There was till today the Argentina is a place of meat.
Good steak.
Right.
Yeah.
Adayom, good meat is coming from Argentina.
Is it from the grass? Because the cows eat good grass?
The Pampas.
The Pampas. There's an area, the Pampas.
Right. Yeah. There's an area that's I guess the pasture is really good and the cows are really fat and there's someone that davens here actually that his father is in the business. He's the Galiciana Shchita there for 50 years. And my Mechut says, yeah, sure, I do the Ashgocha there. So
my nephew from Israel is shochet.
And they go down there.
They go twice a year for 2-3 months.
Yeah, they make their money and then they live. Yeah, they live a whole year in Israel for the shchita. They do a few months in Buenos Aires. By the way, before I get to this tshuva, there was another tshuva I see in the sefer that the abattoir they wanted to work. They wanted to get the business going. So in Yom Tov, you have 2 days Yom Tov, you lose a lot of business, and they're shipping meat everywhere. So they had a trick. They would have the shochtim shecht on Yom Tov, and if you need a little bit of the meat on Yom Tov, so they would give them a piece. They would give them the liver for free. They'd give them the liver of the cow, which is, if you're selling a whole cow, what is the price of the liver? The liver is 1 pound, and it's not even. We're not talking about the good fat meat, the Argentinian steak, and then give them a rib steak. They gave the shochet a liver, and they said, "Now this is another Rav who was a makil." He said, "Oh, it's kosher because you're allowed to shech the behema on Yom Tov if you're going to use even a part of it." So again, there's a tshuva from Rabbi Goldman. Again, there's not that much lumdus here. It's not these. First of all, it's machlokes if you're allowed to do it. But he said this is haroma. It's a joke. The shechtim are not even eating the livers, and they're just getting a free bag with 10 livers inside. They're not even eating it on Yom Tov. It's the kula was only if you're actually going to eat a piece of meat on Yom Tov. But there was one more tshuva in that line of tshuvas. There was the shoftim. The shoftim would go on Yom Tov. So there was this guy Hillel. Again, this guy Hillel wrote an article that there was a tram. Buenos Aires, a developed city. There were trams. So he said that the abattoir was not in the Jewish neighborhood. The abattoir was out in the neighborhood outside the city or in the which was far. So the shachtim, the shachtim would go say on Yom Tov to shecht, and it's far. So they want to daven in the morning, and then they want to have the meal, and they want to go shecht a few cows. So he wrote a tshuvas kilo this guy Hillel that it's mutter to go on a tram on Yom Tov. So I figured, I'll print out this tshuva and we'll read it inside. The lumdus is not so difficult, but it's gishmak, and it's relevant for shilas that we have. It's very relevant because it's like people today also. You have trains, you have all kinds of, and the guy is operating it. The Yid is not driving it. So there's relevance to what we do today. All the way, on the first column.
Right side.
Yes, thank you. Acher Somach Acher Simachov. Acher Somach Acher Shekasafti Chuvos Binyan Heksher Rechem Al Chag Pesach. Hagam Haloim Reisi Bamichtav Eis Hanal. In the newspaper, Gillian Aleph der Chodesh Iyar Shana Zu. Shehilal Hanal. Shekhines Atzne B'Shem Rav. He calls himself a rabbi. V'hiter Linsoya Ala Tramvai B'Shabbos V'Yom Tov. And he said that you're allowed to go Shabbos Yom Tov on a tram. Yan ki nichremu rachem aval hashuvim v'datzim shumuchrochim lakatas ragleim lebeisim v'dvachayim b'Yom Tov. Because he has a rachmonis on the shoftim that Nebuch. We're going to walk 45 minutes or an hour to the abattoir and all the way back home, and it'll disturb the Simchas Yom Tov. So he wrote a tshuva to help the shoftim. Obviously, this is going to be a churban for Judaism. If the shoftim or the frum Jews are going to go on a tram, do you think the other people are not? So it's a be unbelievable. Shabbos and Yom Tov.
The whole thing is based on giving liver they're not even going to eat.
Yeah, but this was a different chat.
Okay.
I understand. This was now a different chat. They did. This is all going to be part of the Shaila because he said, I think you don't, from what he's saying, it's not so clear what the guy wrote, but it seems that the guy wrote that obviously the tickets or whatever it is, the coupons that they buy in order to go, they should buy Erev Shabbos and Erev Yom Tov. So you're not. So you bought it Erev Shabbos, Erev Yom Tov, and you have it in your pocket for Shabbos. It's not a problem. I'm sorry, Yom Tov. So you have it on, yeah, and then you can go on the tram. The head of his,
Shabbos you wouldn't be able to do.
Right. The head of his Erev Geoina, Shem Bazel Loy Mishum Tchumim V'Lo Mishum Shanochli Oyis Malacha B'Shvil Yisrael is Basra Shuvim Be the Beiris Buenos Aires. Ki b'chag hashvuos haba Torah chadosha mitei teitze. That for this chag hashvuos there will be a Torah chadosha v'nid nanal v'neros nefleisi al koche mi higid loy zois ki omnem lefi daiti tervai isne beim levad shari sunem v'nidin ze kumay shavayr hine betam yisar alicha bekoren Shabbos v'yom tov yish gimel time. Why is a person not allowed to travel in a wagon on Shabbos v'yom tov? So there's three reasons. Emphasis in the beginning of the fourth Pedic in Eidevin. The Gemara talks over there. The Gemara starts the fourth Pedic about the story with Reb Gamliel that was on a boat on Shabbos, and Reb Shua ben Korch was machmir not to walk more than Dalad Damas, and Reb Gamliel said no, you're allowed to walk the whole Svina. The Gemara says Hilchas Reb Gamliel that you're allowed to walk on the entire Svina. Then there's a big fat Tosfos there. And the Tosfos says that there were people that used to go travel in Europe. They used to light their candles on Friday in the boat, and then they used to go home. And the next morning they would come whenever the boat is leaving. They would go on the boat. The Rashbam says that's wrong. You have to be on the boat before Shabbos, before the sun sets. You have to be sitting on the boat. But if you're sitting on the boat, it doesn't matter that you're traveling out of the Chutz L'Tchum. Because that's the Hilchas Reb Gamliel. You're traveling Chutz L'Tchum because you're not really traveling Chutz L'Tchum because you're sitting in the boat and the boat is going Memela. This is how about that Rashbam said. How about if you're going to sit on a wagon and there is horses and there's a balagola and the balagola is a goy. So maybe also just like Reb Gamliel said, it's mutter to sit on the boat. Even though the boat is going on out on Shabbos, I mean, in the case of Gamliel, it's not clear that the boat went on a Shabbos. But Rashbam said, as long as you're sitting on you're going to Shvitz on the boat before the sun sets, it's kosher. So maybe we should say the same thing should be a person that goes onto a wagon and let's say before Shabbos he jumps onto the wagon and he sits there and the guy will get out. So the Rashbam said no. Why? He said when Gamliel allowed, it was because of boat. And a boat goes out to the ocean. True, you could have an island. It's not so shkiach. Usually the boats are traveling and traveling and traveling, and especially those days are traveling for days, weeks, and months. So it could happen that on Shabbos they'll come to an island, then we'll have a problem, Taka. That there'll be a shiloh deed, there's allowed to get off the boat. Because the Taka, the Mishnah said that they once came to an island, and the Rebbe Gamliel said we're allowed to get off because as the sun was about to set, I saw we were already within the tchum of the city. Otherwise, you're not allowed to get off. But the Chachamim were not so choshesh because not every day and not every Shabbos. Sometimes Shabbos goes by and you're in the boat for another. But on the wagon, it's a double rogel that you stop, you pit stop, and then the Yid is going to go off, and he's already chutz l'tchum. He's not allowed to walk more than Dal Damas. So that Rashbam said, therefore, you can't learn from this that the Mishnah said that if Gamliel allowed you to be on the boat, you can't learn from that you're allowed to be on the Koren. And besides, he said, anyway, Chazal said it's also to be mishtamish for Baal Chai. Why? Because in those days, the person was a davar ogel that they had, that a person would use a stick for the horse or for the behemoth that he's riding. And Shema Yachtach Zmoira, that they didn't have fancy whips. It's from a tree. So they were scared that the stick will fall out of his hand and he needs to hit the horse or the whatever, the chamoir. So he'll rip a zmoida off from a tree, even though to me and you it might seem ridiculous. But whatever Chazal made a takona, even Apple Pishin is battle, Atam, Loin is battle, like Zayda. So whatever.
Are you allowed to hit the behemoth?
Yeah,
You're allowed to move.
You're allowed to hit to move. Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
good.
Yeah. But Chazal said on Shabbos, so let's read inside. In betam Isser alicha bekorim b'Shabbos yom yesh gimel timing. Aleph mishtamish b'Baal Chai. It's probably a typo here. There's no beis here. And the reason why it's also l'shamish b'Shai is Shema Yachtach Zmoida. Beis is Taman Ashbam Shema Ivgu by Listim, which is a funny, interesting. The Tosfos says that Ashbam said that it's dangerous to travel. Those days in Europe, it's dangerous to travel. So where do we find? Could be what the Rashbam really meant is that there's a lot of things. Chazal, for example, going in a boat, person's going to get sick, seasick, so he's so if your person goes on a dangerous trip on Shabbos, the fact that Shemiv go released him, he's not calm. I'm not sure what the kavanah of the Rashbam was. And the third is Shema Yishkach b'yeded chutz l'tfum ve'in lo yela daladamas. The dafk shelach beragla b'makis simon atchum u'bekorach Hashem Hashem yeh lo yechaben es atchum. I'm b'machomes le'erev and dafam gimel lamadalef toises dibra maschal alocha u'mordchei perikam the Shabbos I'm betas mereish memches v'ine l'tamar Rashbam. According to Rashbam, that a person might jump off. Av bekorim b'li behemoths also. What do I care if a behemoth not a behemoth? A tram doesn't have a behemoth; it's working with electricity. But there's the chash. Bagam that Rashbam also l'chutz l'tchum. Rashbam only said that it's also if you're planning to l'chutz l'tchum, mashma b'teichetum shori. I'm b'mishpatz sham nidalid b'nindam gam b'teichetum also. I think that in this case also b'teichetum. But I'm a fereshes. It's a cool lumdus that he has. But I'm a fereshes megamar aruch mesachas beitz daf chafkas mit beitz v'zel shoyne. If the sheikh wants to show his chalif to the chacham on Yom Tov, the meir shari v'rabbanan asi. Why? The chashin and dilma ozel chutz l'tchum laharis asakin l'chacham. Rabbanan said it's also that because what happens, he's going to want to show his knife.
Of muktzah?
No, because he's allowed. No, because it's sakin of shechita on Yom Tov. You're allowed to shecht if you want to eat from that cow, so it's not muktzah. But he's going to want to show it to the chacham because he's going to want the chacham to go up and down with his fingers to check if the knife is good. So and the chacham is not going to be home, so he's going to go to the next town where the chacham is there, and he's going to walk chutz l'tchum. So it's like a far out gzeda. But still, Chazal made a gzeda, and that's it. Hilkich afilu b'toich tchum asur. I'm a mechames beran. Ba'af gav l'inyan ein rechon gav b'heima like Hashin and dilam azul chutz l'tchum. The Chazal never said, "L'gabe behema the Shah Shema Zachutz turn the page. The Tam Shema Yachtach Zmayra Sham beGemara the Flamat Vav and Beis Hainu Mishum Shein Lo Tzorich Lo Tzachutz L'Tchum L'Shema Yetzer Shaloi L'Das B'Lchud L'Sheyesh Lochash Kivim B'Kai Gavin L'Shkiach L'Chashinim Bei. The Chazal didn't say that the problem of writing a behema Shema Yetzer Chutz L'Tchum. Why should you be Choshesh Shall go Chutz L'Tchum? Aval Hara Sakin L'Chochem Shum L'Chuyev. Because the Gemara says the Chulin High Taf the Loisar Sakina Kamechok Mishamtin Lay Gamu Milz the Shkicha Chashin and Isharis to Betoich Tchum Yavelot is Chutz Tchum Hilke Chafila Chochem Yosher Betoich Tchum also Hashere Shal Cholaf Vanechad when Milz Shumuchuyev Lasses or Shkicha Afila Betoich Tchum also who Adim Benid Nedam Shashoich to Boyde Kumuchuyev Lishchet Shkicha Shumuchol Yemesim Labesa Medbachayim Isharis Lisa La Tramvai Betoichet Chum, also Mishigas Chutz Letchum. Was also in Tamer Rashbam. Shema Yelepom, and Beis Midbachem, Chutz Letchum, Vishkach Lietze, Chutz Letchum. Masha Kosav Rashbam, Davke Chutz Letchum, also Lesha Bekonen, and Davke Kshenechir, Valeshkiach. Aber Vildove, Shemuchuy, Vishkiach, Av Betoichet Chum also. Veloy have Exera, Exera, the Bechagab, the Gezin, Exera, Exera. I am Berosh. It's a little bit of a far out lumbus, I must say. Um, but he's trying really hard to slug up that guy. But it's a chap. It's a chap. He's saying that the Rashbam said that a person is going chutz l'tchum is not allowed to go on a wagon, even though the guy is the wagon driver. The terchet tchum is mashma would have been mutter, but that's a regular person. But for the sheikhet, which is chayiv shech, so there's the idea that maybe he'll go chutz l'tchum. And then he goes on that Taka in Europe, a lot of the Babatwas are chutz l'tchum. And he says, what happens in Buenos Aires that the government will make a law that you're not allowed to have an abattoir in the middle of the city, which a lot of Taka countries today have that law, that you're not allowed to have in a city an abattoir. You have to have it chutz l'ir. So then the Shaykh is Gzeda of the Rashbam. So therefore it's also. Then he goes into practical, a place with a Sheikh cow.
You understand?
Yeah, Schlachtois, yeah. And then he goes into, he says, first of all, and then he has actually a nice chiddush afterwards. The guy said that most of the people in Buenos Aires are going. And if a goy does something that's not shaykh to be marbe or b'mad b'shviloi, is so he said like this, that the tram, because it works in electricity, and then this is it's up for debate. Probably by buses, it's less shaykh to say the svara, but could be with electricity and with trams, it's shaykh. It doesn't matter how many people are on the tram, there's an equal amount of electricity being used. So when one man walks onto the tram, there's not more electricity being used. It doesn't add. Now, with a bus, it's impossible to say that because it's not. The more weight there is, so the more gasoline you're using. But with a tram and a train, there is this argument that you're not using more or less electricity by the amount of people and weight there is on the train. It's hard to imagine because, but could be it's negligible. The amount of weight of a man, which is 200 pounds, the is not noticeable, and therefore the goy is doing a malacha, and roiv of the people are goyim. So therefore, it's when a goy is doing, and it's not shaykh the gzeida shema yarba b'shvil. Like if the goy is doing, if for example, like the Mishnah says, that he's putting water, he's drawing water for his cow. Now he's drawing extra, but even though he did it for himself, you're not allowed to take because shema yarba b'shvil. But if the goy turns on the light, and most of the people are sitting in the room are goyim, so he did it adaita deroiv, and therefore even if he is there's a lot of read from a sefer. So that's if he did it at that, you don't know who he did it for. But what happens in this case? The Jew bought the ticket before Shabbos. So when did Chazal? The Chazal said the guy walked into the room. He didn't ask, "Should I do for you, for you?" He didn't ask. He stopped. He walked into the thing. He flipped the switch. So he's saying if Roiv the people in the room are going, so he did it at Daita the Roiv. He says, Rabbi Goldman, what happens if he walks into a room and there's one Yid? Oh, Rabinu, Rabinu, Rabinu! For you, I'm turning on the light. It's awesome. Over the people that are sitting there are goyim. That's Bistam. Bistam, he did Adas Haroy. But if he said Befedish, he's doing it for Rabino, Rabino, it's awesome. When a breed bought a ticket to go on the tram, so they're doing it for him and for him and for him. It's not Shaykh Roiv anymore. It's like Kavua, Kemertza Mertza. It's not Shaykh Roiv. He's doing it for every person that's sitting on the tram. That's his. Then he says it's the Zilus of the Shabbos. V'yom, which is Chazal goes in on a lot of things. A person's not allowed to go with a stick at Shabbos Yom Tov, even there's an Eidah, unless it's Mamash's feet. We spoke to Sheet about it the other day. Unless it's Mamash's house, he can't walk without it. But otherwise, he's not allowed to because Zilus of the Shabbos Yom Tov. So he said for sure, going on a tram is the Ein Lecha Zilus of the Shabbos Yom Tov Godel Mizeh. So these was three arguments. The first argument is, but the middle argument is a Shana Lomdus. It's a very nice Lomdus, and very nice. Anyway, I figured today's share will be dedicated on the because it's unbelievable to see that a Yid it's over 100 years ago. A Yid that passed away. He passed away already, very old man, passed away in 1920. And one of the stories over here that the Yidden told, there was like a drought and there was a shayla b'chas shom machal Shabbos, and he said if you're not going to be machal Shabbos, there'll be a rain. Kachava. There was no one not machal Shabbos, and there was a rain. And you see what happens with such people that in the schus of their Mesiris Nefesh, they have children that are holchim b'derech haTorah v'mitzvahs. So I just want to finish off with one more, even though we usually do three shilas, but I think within here itself, we did the shilah of the Pesach and the shilah of the liver and the shilah. So it's three shilas. I'll just finish off with just a shena vort because I said I wrote three shilas last night and I didn't use any of the three shilas. So one of the three shilas that I wrote is what to do with sibling rivalry. The truth is I don't know the answer. And the Horaya that last night I told my wife I wrote it already as a shaila. You have to give me the answer. She said she said I don't have the answer. I said, how could be? You always have the answer for everything. You're mechanech, the kids in the best way. She said that there's the one thing in my life I don't have an answer is how to deal with sibling. But the truth is, their answer is sometimes is that the answer is they're not answers an answer. Sometimes it's better not to mix in because Rahman al-Islam, children could find that the parent have favorite. So sometimes struggling, but I figured portable I have to say a shtickle alumnus on it. Anyway, this is my wife's advice, Taka, not to get involved in it. I tell you what, it really works. You have to sometimes be smart from the side, but not to take, you have to be very careful. But anyway, the story of Yaakov, and the children have so Vayav Yosef Dibos Mira Lavim, one of the things he said that they eat Eva Menachai. So all the Mefarshim ask, how could the Chatz Shalom say that it's a Mamonashech? It's like the Ayam said this week, Hashem said, if you hear something not good about a Jew, that you should feel pain. Monofshech, either the person who did something bad. Okay, so he's in the matzav loitoy, and if it's a lie, so whoever told it to you is the matzav loitoy. So either way, it should hurt your heart. So over here, either way, it hurts the heart. So is Yosef Chas V'Shalom exaggerating or lying, or the Shvatim Shifta Yudke are eating? It's cruel, and they're eating Evim and Achai. What's going on? So there is a Helf the Eibishter. There is a Sefer Tzvi V'Chomit from Rebbe Tzvi Hirsch Razovsky in Vilna. He says the Pischei Tshuva in Yeridei Samach Beis brings like this from the Shalom Kodesh. Behemish Shenivra Al Yedei Sefer Atzira. Kamosh Mitzim V'Gemara Egla Tlisah B'Chol Erev Shabbos Ba'aba. Every Erev Shabbos he would be learning Sefer Yetzira, and he would create an Egla Tlisah that he would eat Lakovit Shabbos. So Argentinian steak. So mutter la'ochle be'oidei chai. That over there you don't have to have shkita. There's no such a thing as eva menachai over there. Eva menachai is only by a regular animal that the Eibishter created, or is a descendant of an animal that the Eibishter created. B'sheishis and bereishis. For this, the Eibishter said the tzivui to Noach that he's not allowed to. He's allowed to shech that he's not allowed to eat. For these animals that were dear b'shas ma'isa. But an animal that was created through Sefer Tzivah that was not around, but the Eibishter said the Tzivah, that's not part of the Tzivah. That's what Shalom Kodesh says, brought in the Pischei Tshuva, Samach Beis. Who says everyone agrees with Shalom? Maybe he says the 12 Shvatim for sure learned Sefer Tzivah. Sefer Tzivah was offered by Avraham Avinu. And if Rebbe Abba made an Eglet Lisa, they probably could also make an Eglet Lisa. So they paskin like the Shalom. And Yosef Atzadik paskin l'chumra and the lokash shalom. So therefore, this was the sharp machloikis. If it applies, Eva Marachai only applies to animals descendant from those animals around. B'shas David told Noach they're not allowed to eat Eva Marachai, or it even applies to animal from Sefer Yetzirah. Okay, David shall helfen that we should have. We should always say we have to figure out how to do mechanech our children outside the Yosef Tov. Mazal Hov Nachas, Nachas, or Nachas, and Nachas. Everyone needs to make good shidduchim, should make good shidduchim. So Ham Nachas from Kinderlach that we should be able to proud to march with them when Mashiach came. Forgot. You remind me. I'll bring you. I won't want you here tonight.